software was an important thing. And so we decided to stay away from hardware because that would allow us to work in partnership with all the different hardware manufacturers. And we even said when we started Microsoft in 1975 that eventually people would spend more money on software than they would spend on software. Now, that's not true today. It's not true by quite a bit. And so hardware prices are going to have to come down a lot, and software prices are going to have to go up, not per unit, but people will be using more variety of software before that becomes true. So certainly by 1975, we had decided that software was the key missing element to really tap the power of the microprocessor.
Thank you.
Is out there in different places. And what's going on is that countries, we have what's called a rating system, where the different pages on the internet are rated according to their content. And then you can set up the browser so that it will only browse to things that have, say, a family type rating. And every country, I think, will go with standards like that, where pages need to be rated, and then parents can make sure the browser is set up with the appropriate restrictions. Another thing about the internet is that you can keep a log of everything that that your children have been going out and looking at. And so there's a complete audit trail that shows where they've been spending their time and what they've been doing. So that's quite different than TV, where you don't know exactly what they were watching, or magazines or books. Here it's possible to keep track of that. There are still some very tricky issues, like at what age should you be able to browse the internet without your parents knowing what you're looking at, and exactly in each culture, these rating systems will be somewhat different. So as you go outside the country to look at other pages, they may have different standards there, and that is fairly complicated. Of course, one way to deal with that is just to say that children can only look at pages within the country, but that gives up some of the benefits because there's a lot of the interesting material is in the United States. In terms of protecting yourself, there's really no problem. You can block mail from people you don't want to get mail from, and you only have to go to the sites that you want to go to. And so, in terms of your own activities, you're safe. The main concern comes from parents who are worried that their children will do things that they wouldn't want them to do.
Dr. Rakesh on, and then Mrs. Bill.
Mr. Gates, now that the Indian Finance Minister has made software duty at zero, that is, duty-free, will you make a promise that all Microsoft products will be sold in India at prices no higher than the United States?
Absolutely. We need to make sure the distribution efficiency is there to have that happen. We actually sell our products to our distributors at prices either equal or lower than the United States prices. And our strategy is to have prices here be equal or lower. And so absolutely, we're committed to that. Well-defined term. To our competitors, it means a machine that's completely incompatible with all of today's software. It means throwing out everything that's ever been done for personal computers. And most of these machines are defined so that the real expense is buying a server. You have to have a communications line at all times, very, very high-speed communications lines at all times, and you make all the work be done on a central computer. And this is how computing was done 20 years ago. And computer manufacturers make a lot more money on those big computers at the center. And so when you move work to the center, you increase the price dramatically of that work. The cheapest form of computing by far is the personal computer. Personal computer prices have come down. They'll continue to come down. In fact, you can buy in the United States today a fairly reasonable PC for about $1,000. So that represents quite a bit of progress there. you have to be careful of schemes where all you're getting is basically a dumb terminal. And the network computer, as defined by most of these companies, is a dumb terminal. So it doesn't do anything by itself, not until you pay for a connection and you pay for the server computer, and you have to rewrite all the software that's there. And so that's why, even though they said 2 years ago everybody would be buying network computers, today nobody's buying network computers. Now people are still talking about it because it's kind of an industry thing that sounds kind of interesting to talk about. But I believe that low-cost PCs that run today's software and don't require very, very expensive servers will be where the industry goes in the future.
The gentleman there.
Thank you. What people expect from the operating system will change pretty rapidly. You know, last year we had a big focus on putting internet support into all of our products. This year we have a major focus on what's called scalability. That is making sure PC technology delivers more performance than even expensive Unix systems or mainframe systems, and lowering the cost of ownership, making it very easy to manage lots and lots of PCs. And I think we'll surprise people in terms of how rapidly we move there. There's a lot more work to be done in the operating system. And in fact, as I said, 20 years from now, every personal computer will be able to see, will be able to listen, it will be able to talk, and it will be able to learn. And people who use those machines will ask us, what did computers do back in 1997? And it'll actually be hard to describe what it was that we did with the machine that couldn't see, couldn't listen, couldn't talk. Because everybody will expect the machine to just fit into the normal environment. Now, doing that software development is a big challenge. We have very aggressive research activities in each of those areas. And it's hard to predict when it will get done. But certainly sometime in about the next 10 years, I expect all of those things to radically transform the way we think of the operating system of the personal computer.
Thank you. The gentleman there, yes, right.
Would you give a message for the people who want to grow and learn from you?
Okay. Well, the reason I think my job is the best job in the world is because every day I'm learning new things. Every day I get to work with very smart people. Often I get to see people that we hire right out of college and over a period of years, see them develop into great engineers or great business managers. And you know, there's nothing more fun than seeing how people develop. It's also a lot of fun to see how these products get out in the market, to see little kids using, even very young kids, 2 or 3 years of age, playing with software and seeing that they can try out different things, or seeing jobs that were very, very boring jobs have become quite interesting and quite impactful because of this tool. I work in an environment that's very competitive. There's lots of surprises taking place, and it's my job as the leader to be calm. You know, when people are getting too excited or too worried about something, it's my job to step in and say, okay, you know, we've seen problems like this before. We'll see problems like this again. You know, myself, I'm pretty much an optimist about the world and about the power of software. And that enthusiasm and energy often is the thing that I turn back to when I think, wow, you know, it's a very, very challenging situation sometimes.
Thank you.
Well, I think the greatest impact on Microsoft to date has been the people that we've hired, both here in India and in the United States, who come from your world-class universities. That's a major contribution to the worldwide software industry, is the people that are graduating from those schools. Now, the way to take advantage of that situation is to broaden the number of graduates. It's to free up the economy more and more so that entrepreneurial firms find this a very attractive place to build new products and and do the risky things that technology involves. You know, we basically, in increasing our investment here, have bet that all of the right things are going to take place, and that India will be one of very few countries where a massive amount of software development gets done. And certainly everything I've seen on this visit just reinforces the decision we made to make a very long-term commitment to this market.
Thank you. From the Central Gallery, Mr. Inderdeep Singh.
Apple Macintosh. The day that the Macintosh shipped, we were the only company other than Apple to have software for the machine. And we've sold far more software on the Macintosh than anyone else has. And so we're sorry to see the volume of Macintosh going down. To give credit where credit is due, the basic ideas of graphical interface were not originated at Apple or Microsoft. A company called Xerox had a research center in California that pioneered all of these ideas. And unfortunately, they didn't manage their product design well enough to be able to take advantage of it. And so in fact, a lot of the very good people from Xerox left and went to Apple, and at the same time, a lot of those people left and went to Microsoft, and those are the people who helped us work on Microsoft Windows. So we both owe a debt of gratitude to Xerox for the fine work they did. And that's partly why Microsoft has put so much into long-term research. Our research group today is 5 times the size of the Xerox research group. And in fact, the only other company with a substantial long-term research group in our entire industry is IBM. They do a lot of fine research and make contributions as well. In terms of competition, we compete with IBM in some areas. They have a thing called OS2, a product called Notes, a database called DB2. We compete with Oracle in the database area. We compete with Netscape in browsers. In almost every area you can name, there are excellent competitors. Another key point is that we compete to be easier to use. If we want to grow the market, the computers we sell today won't appeal to a very broad market. So to go back to our vision of a computer on every desk in every home, we've got to make it far, far better. Another key point about competition is that we compete with our own products. If somebody buys today's Windows and they think it's good enough, and we come out with a new version, they can decide just to stay and use that product. And so we have to convince them that we're going to make it easy enough to go to the next version, and beneficial enough, and fitting in with the hardware that they want to buy, that they'll move up to that next new version. And so there's many places to see competition. There's no doubt that the products we ship today will not be the products that people will buy 3 or 4 years from now. The only question is, do we replace those products, or does somebody else come along and do it? And that's partly why it's such a fun business, because if we slow down at all, we'll pay the price.
Thank you. I know I'm going to disappoint a lot of people in this hall, but unfortunately time is running out, so I am going to give
to let us know their ideas of what a computer could become, and to not restrict themselves according to any technical limitation. And we had an incredible number of entries, over 40,000, and we picked 8 of those, which was very, very tough. And they were quite amazing. Some of them talked about computers that would help with world peace. Some of them talked about computers that would help them deal with their parents. And actually, the creativity, even the artistic inspiration of each of these things, I thought was pretty incredible. So each of these winners got a compact multimedia computer, and will have a chance to come visit me at Microsoft headquarters. The reason we did the contest was to remind people that you really have to open up your mind to think about what the computer is going to become. You can't think about it in the way that it is today. And anybody who's been working in this field, it's hard for us to remember that because we're so used to what the computer is. So it's young people who are untarnished and can kind of think ahead in a creative way. You know, for me, you know, for a contest like this, I think about a computer that would be an assistant, help me learn new things, help me find information, and it would keep track of what I'm interested in. And I think we're working towards being able to actually build that and make it a reality sometime within the next 10 years.
Thank you very much, Bill.